Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Is everybody doing okay this afternoon?
Doing well.
Can't complain. Yeah, it's going good.
Good, good.
How are you?
Just fine, just fine. I don't know if any of you all have been able to participate in the Behavioral Health Summit, but that was some really good work yesterday and pretty good start to this afternoon. I'll jump back over there when we finish up, but
Nice.
real good stuff. It's a beautiful day out.
It is. It's warm and sunny.
Comfortable.
Everything that makes you want to not be on a call, but sitting outside. Yes.
Hello.
I'll be right back. Just in 1 minute. I'm sorry, everybody.
Mhm. Hey, Diana.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So you're juggling the two things too, huh?
Exactly.
I just told everybody I'll be jumping back on as soon as we finish up here. It's good stuff.
Exactly. I still got my computer up. I'm on my phone on this call.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good. Well, good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you as well.
Hey, Portia.
Hello there. How's everyone?
Just fine. Just fine.
Awesome. Let my lunch.
Well, you're not sharing?
Nope, not today.
Honesty is always the best policy, I tell you. I actually had mine early today, so that was pretty good. Hey, Jennifer. I think I saw Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie.
Hello, how are you?
All right. Good afternoon.
Good.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Lenarda.
Hey, Leonardo.
Hey, Lakeisha. Wow.
Hey, everybody. I'm trying to eat my lunch, trying to eat this avocado.
Oh, don't say it. I want one so badly.
Y'all, it's bad. Y'all should see how I'm eating. Look, no
Listen.
judgment zone. This such no. I got it like this, y'all. Just digging it out.
Oh, girl, get it.
But then,
Listen, have you ever put fresh lime, and then Lenarda turned me out to jerk seasoning.
on my avocado.
A little bit of lemon pepper seasoning and a little bit of jerk seasoning. Oh, I have my whole house eat. My little boy, like, when can we have some more avocado?
I ain't even gonna say I'm gonna try that either. I'm not trying that.
That's all right. That's all right, Lenarda. We're gonna be on a mission. We're gonna take some down the road to her.
Come on over here in the green chair.
We're gonna bring it. We're gonna bring you some.
So I got a guy who needs to put an Uber app on his phone, but he doesn't have the App Store on his apps. How did he get the App Store on his app?
Hey, Dennis.
Google Play. You can download Google Play.
I saw Play Store.
Yeah, Play Store. That's the App Store.
No, we can hear him. Hold on.
On his,
It doesn't show up on his app back.
we installed it.
I want to mute somebody.
Y'all may need
That's
to go over.
Caverly.
Y'all may need to step over and tell Dennis to mute his phone.
Yeah, please.
To see if it's
Dennis is always a troublemaker. Well, we'll give it a few more minutes, guys, and out of respect for everyone's time, we will go ahead and get started. Everybody still doing okay?
Yes. Great. Thank you.
Hey, Caverly, are you or Lenarda going to advance the slides?
I was going to advance the slides.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't able to get my printer to print, so that's why I was asking.
You want me to share my screen now?
Oh, you can. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, maybe I am.
You say maybe, maybe not.
There we go.
So while we wait one more minute or two, if you guys will go ahead to the chat and drop your name and contact information, the agency you're representing in the chat, that way we'll know who all is present for today. Appreciate that. Hey, Tamario.
Hey, how you doing?
Just fine, just fine. All right, guys, it's about 12:35 or so. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey, Miranda. So just wanted to welcome everybody to our Housing Subcommittee meeting today, March 25th. And Keverly, can you put that in presentation mode? Is that possible? I'll give you guys a few reminders.
How do I do that?
I'll be there.
She's coming. So just a few quick reminders. This call is being recorded. Throughout the meeting, we'll remind you to put your name and contact information in the chat, just so that we can keep a track of who's present and get all the information to you, any handouts that we have from today. We do have a presenter today, but so there is the raise your hand feature if you'd like to be acknowledged and have a chance to speak. I do believe we've muted all participants. If you'll hit the raise your hand feature, we'll be able to give you the mic and let you ask your question or provide any feedback you might have. If you're calling in by phone, you can toggle between mute and unmute by hitting *6. And on the phone, you can do *9 for the raise your hand or acknowledgement feature. Thank you so much, Keverly. Can you advance? So I'm going to turn it over to Yamali, our chair of the Housing Subcommittee. Yamali?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone having a great time. Especially, I heard it's very nice outside. I don't know because I'm inside. Well, basically, what we are currently with our subcommittee, what we were able to accomplish so far is we actually have a list of landlords that we were able to receive from Miss Betty Cobbett. And with that list being in mind, we are now in the process of putting it together and gathered the phone numbers of a few landlords to hopefully reach out to them. But prior to do that, we will preferably like to have a steady script when we call, so we all could share or say the same thing when we do make the call out. So the list purpose is to, as you guys already know, we talked about it before, is to see which landlords are willing to accept Section 8 vouchers, sex offenders, and also or background friendly. And we welcome any suggestions from anyone, since this is kind of new for me. It is very new. So if anybody in the group has any feedback, especially with the script and the way we need to approach the landlords when we start making phone calls, we will appreciate that very much. Especially now that we have the Raleigh-Wake partnership to end in preventing homeless, Miss Jasmine Volkel on the line. So if we are welcome to give us some feedback or any ways that we could improve this process that we're trying to do now.
And Yamali, you were saying that I think Lakeisha's on the line, and Lakeisha is also doing part of the coordination of that list and consolidating. Is that correct?
Yes. So once we put the list, once we gather all the telephone numbers, so Lakeisha will be the one making out the phone calls, and we could split the list as well. We welcome some volunteers as well if who's willing to call. So she will be making the phone calls to the landlord once we have, number one, the phone numbers and the script that we need to use, because we all need to use the same script when we call. So she'll be also making the phone call. That's correct.
Just to jump in, I think the script piece component would be a huge asset. So again, we're not the experts as far as like communicating with the landlords. And so Ms. Jasmine or anyone else who has that relationship with previous landlords, or, you know, how to talk to them, we want to make sure that their initial contact with us is something that we get into, right? We want to make sure that it's something that we're prepared for, and, you know, have our best face for it. As Yamli stated, we got the list, we're going to put it together, get the phone numbers, have about 90 so businesses right now, get the phone numbers together, and then have that script so we can divide the list out, and then talk to those landlords one-on-one.
Okay, is that something that you all are trying to get done today?
If you have some feedback or suggestions of what we should consider in that scripting, we really wanted the bulk of our time to be your presentation.
Okay.
But sure, I would love, you know, I think it'd be beneficial to hear some feedback from you guys. You all really are the subject experts. And let me just say this before you start, Jasmine, to the entire subcommittee. They're not just presenting to us, they have joined the council and are a part of us. So this is our own sharing with us how to help guide us in this process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we do have a housing navigation unit that is tackling some of what you all have here under priority 1. And we also have a slideshow that we had hoped to go through today that just gives an overview of what our COC, what that is, and how that relates to homelessness, and what the projects that we have internally, how they're helping to deal with the crisis that we're experiencing, and also what other programs and funding we have available. And so I'm happy to start that presentation at any time. And I think that when we get to the navigation unit piece, that we can talk a little bit more about what you all have here as a priority, or what we have a priority, since, like you said, we're part of the LRC now. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess without further ado, we will go ahead and welcome Miss Jasmine to the platform. And I did think she shared she has Crystal from her group, and also Allison is from her group as well. So we welcome all 3 of the ladies with us today.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. So good morning, I guess we're afternoon now. That time is flying.
And we are asking that everybody mute themselves, please, so we could allow Jasmine to further her presentation. If you have any questions, you could always put it in the chat or raise your hand.
Let me ask one quick question. Jasmine, would you like for us to present, or would you like for us to make you co-host so you can go ahead and navigate yourself? What would you prefer?
If you could make me co-host, because
okay.
I already have it up and running, ready to go.
Perfect. I will do that. Just give me 1 second.
Sure thing.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. And I am still looking for you. Oh, there you go. Okay, it's not working that way. Let's try here. Stop.
Is it possible for me to present? I made one small adjustment.
I made you co-host.
Okay. Okay. Can you all see?
Yes.
All right. Great. Okay, so before I get started, I want to introduce myself and allow Ellison and Crystal to introduce themselves as well. So hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Vocal. I'm the Coordinated Access System Director here at the Raleigh-Wake Partnership to End and Prevent Homelessness. And we are not a direct service provider, but we are a coordinating body, a training body, a networking body, funding. So we do a lot of the, what I consider the administrative pieces of the system, as well as I said, looking at the entire system as a whole and making connections with groups like, you all here at the LRC, or we might outreach to different advocacy groups and different funders and things like that. And so I'll be doing the presentation today along with Allison Sickles and Crystal Fulmar. And I'm gonna take a minute and let them unmute and introduce themselves and their title and their role.
I can go first, Crystal. My name's Allison. Like Jasmine said, I'm the by name list coordinator here at the partnership. So my role is really managing the by name list of clients who are in need of housing support. These could be vouchers to rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, or housing choice vouchers, and also facilitating meetings like case conferencing, as well as housing provider meetings. And so really just to get an idea of some of the trends our providers are seeing and sharing that with the larger community as well.
And thank you so much. Well, my name is Crystal, like Jasmine had mentioned, and I'm the Access Hub Manager here at the Raleigh-Wake Partnership. I look forward to being able to explain a little bit more about what we do here in the Access Hub to connect community members to service providers. I think that this presentation really laid it out in a clear way. So I'll go over that when we get to my slides and let you get started, Jasmine.
Sure thing. Sorry, it's having some glitches going on there, but I'm good to go. So thank you all for being here today. So like I said, we are here to talk about the coordinated access system. And so I would like to start here, just in case people aren't aware, that we in Wake County are considered by HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, to be a COC. And what that means is a continuum of care. So as you see here, it's just a representative of organizations, of stakeholders that are within a specific area who carry out homelessness activities. And so as you see here, a COC is expected to address homelessness in a really coordinated, community-focused, housing-focused approach. So here in North Carolina, we have 12 COCs. Wake County, which you see here in the blue, we are the second largest COC in the entire state. Technically, the balance of states is larger. They are all of this pale green, but they're comprised of a lot of rural areas. And so, population-wise and density-wise, Wake County is the second largest in the state. And feel free to stop me at any time. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep moving forward. So then, where do we fit in as the Raleigh-Wake Partnership? So we are a representation, of course, like I said, of those different organizations. We have regular ongoing meetings with these organizations, with stakeholders, but we're also what's considered the COC lead agency. And that lead agency is responsible for having the funding competitions that HUD puts out every year. So making sure that, okay, HUD is saying there's X amount of dollars, we have these programs, which programs are doing the best? Which programs have those outcomes that we're really looking for in terms of getting people out of homelessness and housed as quickly as possible and not returning? And so it's our responsibility to have that process every year. And so we gather information, applications, send it up to HUD. HUD evaluates it and says, okay, we're gonna fund this, 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 and this for this much money. And then we help move it back into the community. So that's one of the things that we do as a collaborative applicant. We also oversee the HMIS system. And so HMIS stands for Homeless Management Information System. It is a database that is mandated by HUD. Like I said, we are a HUD organization. And what it is a central location where all of the providers that are actively participating in what we call that COC, so not just present, but actually coming to our meetings, putting their information into the database, putting information about the people they're serving and what that looks like. So if you're serving families, how many people are in the family? What is the composition of that family? What services do they access? What notes do you have about that service? Was it a good service? Was it a mediocre service? Did the person disappear? What happened? And so information goes into this database, and it allows not just us here at the partnership, but allows the agencies, and it also allows for reporting out to HUD so that the information is constantly going out to the community, into the database, to HUD, and things are flowing in that way. And so we have our own HMIS staff in-house that staffs it for all of Wake County. And we also manage, like I said, the coordinated access system, and we'll go over how that looks. But that is, like I said earlier, what I try to do is keep an eye on the entire system and identify gaps, needs, some next steps, and then go out and advocate for those. So what's required? HUD requires some standardization in the process, in the referral process. And so we have to use coordinated entry. This is something that was mandated, I think about 3 or so years ago, possibly 4, but I think it was 2018, where it was mandated that no longer can COCs just operate where it's, who do you know? All right, well, I know Allison is a great case manager, and everybody who works with Allison, they get housed. So let me make sure I go to Allison. Meanwhile, Crystal maybe has less access because she's newer. She's got less connections. Doesn't make her any less of a case manager. It just means she has less connections. And so what happened before was, it was, like I said, all who you know. And so HUD came down and said, let's make this a little bit more coordinated. Everybody is invested. Everybody has a need to make sure that we get our homelessness problem under control as best we can. So let's work together and do that. So we've done that through a coordinated entry process. And we also have policies and procedures that are under consistent review, or constant review, I should say. Does this make sense still? Does this need to be modified? Is this creating more issues and barriers? Or is this policy in this program that's following these policies actually helping here? So we do that as well, just kind of monitor that situation. So this is just really what I said. Before, it was all just everybody kind of working in their silo, whereas now we are really streamlining things and making a clear process. Okay, and so an effective coordinated entry ensures housing programs are filled by those that are most in need. And so we do have prioritization processes in place here. We do have a prioritization process of looking at folks who have disabilities and who have been homeless for a very long time. And those are the people that we are trying to identify. And that's a lot of what Allison does, and she could talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Identify those folks and get them connected, matched, and housed as quickly as possible. Okay, and it says here, implement strategies to figure out how to assist those that are not immediately served by our system. Which is why we are very pleased to be partnering with you all here at the Local Reentry Council, because you all work with a population that we all know really do struggle with getting back on their feet and stably housed. So our system does have several components to it. We have diversion and prevention, street outreach, shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and what we call permanent supportive housing. And I'll just take a minute to go through those so we all have the same common language. Oh, there we go. Prevention and diversion. So prevention and diversion, they occur at the front end of the system. And that is where Crystal manages. So Crystal is our Access Hub manager. And the way our system flows, let me back up a second. The way our system flows is that if a household or an individual is experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness within, I think, 21 days or so, then they can call the Access Hub. And this is, like I said, Crystal and her staff. We do have several access sites throughout the county, throughout Wake County, but the main one is the Access Hub. So that's what I tend to use as my frame. So they'll call the Access Hub. and Access Hub will do diversion. So, you know, I know you're calling for access into our shelter. However, is there anywhere else you can stay tonight? And then take the conversation from there. Because while we don't want to turn people away from getting the services that they need, we also know that a lot of people do have a support system. Maybe they're just not thinking about it right at that moment. And so diversion helps with that, to help slow down the flow of people into our system so we can really focus on those that had no support system. They had no network, they had nothing, and therefore really do need our services. So prevention and diversion. We do not provide financial assistance with our diversion, but there are plenty of prevention projects in our community that do that. They provide that assistance and they provide that rehousing if needed. But the Access Hub does case management kind of things only in terms of, let's talk about what you need, and then let's get you referred out to the appropriate service. Once that referral happens to, let's say, shelter or street outreach, we're getting some of our transitional housing projects folded into our system. So some of those are being referred to. And then of course, prevention for those individuals that are at risk and really need that extra support to maintain their housing, or at least to prevent them from coming into our homelessness system. And so, so once a referral is made, they are picked up by the appropriate service provider. They get onto the by name list, and that gets into Allison's purview. And then from there, we start looking at, okay, who is this person, this household? What are their needs? Where are they best fit? And then we try to make connections and matches in that way. So we have street outreach. This is for our homelessness population who are literally homeless. So maybe they're living in their vehicle, or they're living outside of a building, or under an awning somewhere, a bus station, somewhere where it's really not meant for people to live. Then we have the shelter, which again is temporary shelter. Those street outreach and shelter are accessed through our Access Hub. We have transitional housing, same thing. Rapid rehousing, this happens after somebody has gone through our system, has made it to the by name list. Rapid rehousing programs are considered permanent housing programs. They're designed to be very short term. So they work with folks who need just a little bit of support. So they need a few months of rental assistance. They need a few months of case management, and then that's it. The agency gets out of the way and moves on to the next household. Oh, it should have said permanent supportive housing. I apologize. Used the wrong title. Permanent supportive housing is different than rapid rehousing in that it is a long term, and it's really for those that have the highest need. So those folks that we consider chronically homeless, that have the disabilities, that have been homeless for a very long time, those get matched. They get matched to permanent supportive housing, because that program, as long as the household or individual is a part of that program, they will get services, case management, financial assistance for the life of the entire time that they're in that program. So it is really designed to help our most at-need folk, but it does have these requirements of having the qualifying disability and being long-term homeless. So we can't just match anyone to PSH, but it is an option that our community has for people who are in high need and qualifying. I will say, as was mentioned earlier, we don't have enough of any of the housing. We have the funding for the rapid rehousing and the PSH. We don't have enough landlords, and I'll get into that a little bit later with what our housing navigation unit is designed to do. I'm gonna take a minute and just see if there are any questions. Okay, yeah, still with me. Okay, we'll keep going. All right, so the goal is to get a well-functioning system. And as you see here, a well-functioning system, it has all the necessary component types that I just went over, and the right amount of availability, which, as we know, is part of the struggle that we have right now. And here's kind of a visualization of what I was saying. So we have the Access Hub, it's the front door. They communicate directly with the providers. We have HMIS team that does back and forth communication with the providers, training and all of those things. We have the by name list, which again is a back and forth between Allison and matching homelessness case managers and housing case managers to say, okay, this person has been matched, making that connection. And then the housing navigation unit, where they're listening to what the service providers are saying they need, and then going out and trying to help in that way. All right, and so here is all of the funding that is that really a well-functioning system needs, and we actually have all of this funding except for PASS. Our hospital system, WakeMed, did get PASS for a couple years, I think it was, and just recently turned that money back in. However, they created an even better program in its place. So while we lost that specific funding, that service is still there. And you see here, so we partner with a lot of different groups here. And so HUD-VASH, that's like permanent supportive housing for our veterans. So we work closely with our VA system. We have here victim service providers. We do have Interact as our DV shelter here in Wake, and we partner with them as well to make sure that people who are experiencing domestic violence and interpersonal violence have an avenue to getting themselves permanently housed. We also work with McKinney-Vento, that's the school districts. So we have the Wake County McKinney-Vento head liaison. She attends all of our meetings, and we're in contact with her as well as how we can make connections and bridge some of these gaps as well. And then of course we have ESG and COC, and that's our HUD funding, and then funding from our city and from our county. So so our system is flush with money, but it's the housing piece that we all continue to work with. Okay, so I'm definitely going to stop here and turn it over to Crystal and let her cover a little bit more of the Access Hub.
Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, I'm going to take a moment to talk about what it is that our team does in the Access Hub. As this slide nicely summarizes, as Jasmine had mentioned, we are a team of specialists with the main goal of connecting families and individuals to the most appropriate homelessness response system resources when necessary. If you want to go to the next slide, I think that it lays out the process really well. So anybody can contact the Access Hub, which is not the only access site, but as Jasmine mentioned, it's kind of the largest access site in Wake County right now. They can contact us at our number where we take live calls to assist people over the phone. And we start by conducting a pre-screen assessment to get a good idea of the caller's household and individual needs. And then, based off this information, we can inform them if they are eligible for a referral to a project that's currently available from one of the COC service providers. Then we can discuss those options. And if they'd like to be connected, make the electronic referral through the HMIS, and it'll go over to that project. And, if that project's currently full, we'll inform the caller of an estimated waiting period or any other necessary information that they might need to know. Alternatively, if they are not eligible for any of our electronic referrals, or perhaps if they're seeking some other sort of resources and we have information on that, then we'll provide that over the phone. And you can go to the next slide. And yeah, so who should call? Well, we need to speak to the individual seeking services. So in families, any adult can be identified as the head of household, and we can conduct this pre-screen and make referrals for the entire family under their name. But we do need to collect, some private information such as social security number and their consent to store this information in the secure database. So we need to speak to the individual seeking services, and we can provide referrals within Wake County. So anybody here in our county that doesn't have a safe place to stay or is facing imminent homelessness should definitely call the Access Hub to get connected to the available services. As Jasmine had mentioned, such as, immediately there from the phone call, we can make referrals for emergency shelter, the street outreach programs, and some homelessness prevention programs. On the next slide, here's our team. Jasmine being the Director of Coordinated Access System, and our specialists include my teammates Tracy, Markeisha, and Robin. And as I am transitioning into this role as the manager, we are currently in the process of filling the 4th specialist position here.
All right, thank you so much, Crystal. And so, like Crystal said, so there's the Access Hub, and then there's HMIS. And so this is where we have our HMIS team. So currently, we are working to fill our manager spot. So I'm stepping in that role. But we have Allison, who is our by name list coordinator, and then we have Chloe and Eric, who, of course, are not on this call today, but they are the HMIS team. So the HMIS team, once those referrals happen, as I mentioned earlier, they're responsible for making sure that those referrals are happening in HMIS. They're making sure that the data is in there in a timely fashion. They're keeping an eye on data quality, and they're responsible for the reporting in HMIS. And they can do that project, agency, community level, and then they can also push it out to COC level and push it out to HUD or the community, depending on who's asking for that information. All right, I'm going to pause again and turn it over to Allison.
Thanks, Jasmine. And so like Crystal mentioned, once a client has been enrolled in an emergency shelter or street outreach program and transitional housing, they will then pull onto the by name list and be considered for housing matches. As Jasmine mentioned, our COC does prioritize those who are chronically homeless. And so that means they have a length of time homeless of 1 consecutive year or longer, or they could have 4 episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years that when combined total 1 year. In addition to that, they would have to have 1 or more disabling condition to have that chronic status. And so the list is then sorted from chronic and then non-chronic. And from there, when PSH, rapid rehousing, or HCV vacancies become available, I reach out to the coordinator, or I'm sorry, the housing provider, as well as the case manager working with the client to just ask about where the client is on the list, and if rapid rehousing is an appropriate match, or if permanent supportive housing may be something, if they're chronic, that they're available to receive. So really just building that connection and making the referral for the client to get connected to that housing intervention. In addition to making matches, I also facilitate case conferencing twice a month for both veterans and then also for the general population. And this is really just another time for case managers and housing providers to share resources, bring about a client who they may be having a particular tough time housing, maybe share any insights from applications they completed in the past, answer any questions they may have, and also really provide a time for us to get an idea of any trends that our housing providers are facing.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask a few questions here while you ladies are talking. One thing we wanted to know is how do you actually see what we're doing, which is the connecting the Section 8 or homeless or even sex offenders, how does that connect to your team?
So that is more of what the Housing Navigation Unit does. That is their role, is to go out and engage landlords and advocate for the needs of the population that we have. Now, I'm going to be honest, sex offenders, people with extensive criminal histories and poor credit, they're the hardest to house. And that is what they are doing on a consistent basis, is going out and recruiting landlords. We have a PADmission database, we have a database, another database called PADmission, and that is what the Housing Navigation Unit does. And when you we have a whole process to get access to it. So, you know, an MOU, all things like that. But when the case manager gets access to the PAD mission database, then it shows, okay, this unit is in this part of the county and it accepts these vouchers. So the housing choice vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, they accept those. Or they may accept, I'm blanking out, HUD vouchers. You know, this landlord accepts vouchers. This landlord has these requirements. And so it's a way for the case managers to go in and identify which landlords are already friendly towards the population that we're trying to house, in addition to that ongoing engagement piece that they do. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it kind of does, because that's what we need to learn and find out, the landlords that are landlord friendly, who are open and understanding of the circumstances that are presenting at the moment and are willing to accept the population. So that's what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So Jasmine,
Natalie, I do see your, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I can't see the screen if my hand actually showed. Sorry. So on this call, we have a great mix of people who work either individually or work through their nonprofit or work either in our transitional houses to assist people who are transitioning from jail and prison, right, back into the community. How then would they be able to, how do we improve the service to our clients then? How do we engage them with you guys? Or do you think then that we are on the right track to kind of create a process? Because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but this subcommittee has talked about a couple of things. That's creating this list, really going out and having some conversation with some landlords, listening to some of individuals with lived experience, and then marrying the feedback from both groups to create something that increases the trust on the landlord's part and better prepares our clients for rental success.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of different things that we're talking about, but from your standpoint, what do you think? Are we better to connect to the housing navigation unit? And if so, how do we do that?
Absolutely. I think that the coordinated access system is the process, is the way to engage and get the resources and the landlords that you all have been discussing. So for instance, for those of you that operate transitional housing programs, if you were to officially join our COC, and that means coming to our COC meetings, entering into HMIS, so that way your data can be folded in with the other transitional housing data and the data in general that we use to keep an eye on the health of our system. If you all were to join, what will happen then is that your clients, you know, the folks that are exiting out of the prisons and the jails and needing a place to permanently live, you all would be a part of our system. And so as soon as somebody enters into your project and you were to do it in the HMIS database, then that is an automatic, the person is automatically added to the by name list that Allison maintains, because that list is maintained in our HMIS database, and that list is pulled on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And so if you had somebody in your program, like I said, they're in HMIS, they would pull onto the by name list, and then we could discuss them as a community at case conferencing. Here are the issues. Here are the applications that were sent out. These were the feedback we got from the properties when they rejected it. What else is working in the community? So you would have access to way more community, brain trust. And also Allison can then start trying to match folks to maybe permanent supportive housing, maybe to rapid rehousing. And so it would allow for way more access to the population that we're talking about. And then that also would put this person on the radar of the housing navigation unit, because you would refer to that unit and say, this is who I'm referring. Here are their barriers. Here are their strengths. We need housing. What can happen there? And then the housing navigation unit can work with you all to help that person find housing. So I really think that joining us and joining this process that we already have in place really is a great next step.
And so outside of HMIS, it really is the customer taking the lead. But for those agencies who are a part of HMIS, there's more of a collaborative around assisting them in next steps.
Absolutely, because that's what we're here to do, is to make sure that that coordinated process is happening. And it would still be on the client, it's client choice, right? Like just because we say, here's a resource or here's a unit that we think would be good, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think you absolutely get more access and more information and more of a sharing of funding, because then you can cross collaborate with other agencies. Let's say that, like I just had a meeting early today with the Lions. They provide mental health services. So maybe then you can go ahead and connect with them, or you can connect with a SOAR caseworker, because this agency has a SOAR caseworker and has availability. You know what I mean? Like, it's just more of a collaboration that's happening and more of a coordination. And I think that that's why I always push coming in and joining us, and let's pull more and more resources together. Because I guarantee you that whoever you all are serving are probably touching these other agencies as well. It's just not known. At least this way, it's all known and we can just discuss it.
There's a question in the chat. Jennifer Jackson, did you want to speak your question?
Hi, thank you for that presentation. I have been hearing about you all and actually have had your, I think it's the second Tuesday of each month meeting, at least it used to be on my phone as a reminder, and I just have not been able to coordinate with you all yet. So this has been really, really helpful. I'm with Interfaith Prison Ministry for Women, and we are relatively newer than others in the reentry housing, transition housing arena. And as I typed my question, you answered some of it. So it's really helpful to know that in terms of women who we are housing in our units, in terms of what happens next through that HMIS system, we could help them get the ball rolling to finding the next step, permanent supportive housing. I also wonder how transition and reentry housing is categorized in terms of service provision in the HMIS system. So no, we are not landlords. We run a program, but I'm just wondering if homes like ours, transition homes, somehow can fit through this, or would we only be a referral source for the next phase for participants, if that makes sense?
I think so. Yeah. So the way we classify transitional housing programs in HMIS is transitional housing. But because we are a HUD mandated body, continuing with care, HUD considers transitional housing to be sort of longer term shelter, because you don't have to exit every night the way you do with a lot of shelters, or every week. But eventually, at least from HUD's perspective, which is our perspective, eventually those folks will need to go on to permanent housing unless there's a transition in place kind of project, which some projects are. And so what that would look like is, if somebody were to call the Access Hub and say, I've been recently released from prison or jail, I'm in need of shelter, then that will let Crystal and her team know, oh, okay, these are the folks that primarily work with this population. Let's go ahead and start making connections to get this person on your radar. If you only take in women, then fine, then we'll refer to you. If you only take in men, we'll refer to you. But that will allow us to take the population and push them right into a temporary shelter resource as best as we can. And what that would mean then for you all that operate those programs is that now your program is in the system, this person is in our system, and we can go ahead and they'll be on everybody's radar now. Now we could talk about them at case conferencing if there's any struggles. Now we can say, hey, you know, I know you were trying to house Jasmine and her family. We have an opening here. You all would be perfect for this. And we go from there. And we are housing first community. And so we don't want to wait for people to get, you know, to be perfect. It's like, look, you're here, you're now, you have a need. We're going to do what we can do to get you housed as quickly and efficiently as we can so that you are safe and you have accessibility and you have all the services and things that you would like and need.
Thank you. So a couple clarifying questions. One, the definitions are really important. So am I hearing you say that HUD defines transitional housing as just like the 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights? Yep. So that's one question. Because when we in our world and you know others who are here on this call, transitional housing might be up to a year, year and a half, right? 9 months, a year, year and a half. So it might just be a terminology difference, but I want to get clarity on that.
Sure, and I think I probably just misspoke. Transitional housing, as you describe it, is exactly how we view it as well. Something where somebody can stay for up to a year. We've had some that stay up to 2 years, but then after that point, that person will need permanent housing. And I was trying to say that because there is that sort of finite timeline, HUD considers it to be a homelessness project, right? Like the folks that are in it are still considered homeless. But they're not having to exit every night like you would from a shelter or every week like you would from a shelter. So it's a slightly different.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And my final question is just around provision of services. Are there any limitations because of HUD in terms of how, we would be expected to treat our participants? Are there particular parameters and restrictions or guidelines that you have?
Not really, just that we're housing first. And so, if that person is in your transitional housing project, but then a housing opening happens, we go ahead and move them right in, no matter what stage of budgeting classes or whatever stage they're in, we're moving them on. We're moving them on, and we're gonna the agency that's providing the housing typically also provides the case management. Not always, because we do have some projects that will pull in other agencies to do that case management, but those services will also come along. So just because the person was, midway through a course with you all, doesn't mean they won't continue to get services to help with that, right? Like, so if somebody comes into your project and they have no income, for instance, and you all are working with them on income, but then they get matched to a housing provider, but that housing provider will also pick that up and continue that process. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how it works. Yeah, we keep it going.
Thank you.
So let me interrupt, guys. One more question. We are nearing our cutoff point, but I sounds like this is a good place to kind of make some notes of things that we would like follow up on in some greater detail, Jasmine. So there are a couple of things. I think Jennifer has done a really great job asking those questions, the definition clarifications, but I think there's also this question about if the Housing Navigation Unit is looking for landlords, would any of our transitional housing partners be considered optional as a resource, and are there any benefits to them availing themselves to that? So could they become a part of the inventory that's available to the people that you serve? And if so, are there monetary benefits or incentives for them to do so?
So not quite. The navigation unit, the database I had mentioned earlier, that's only for property managers. That's what we advertise in there. but we give access to our HMIS licensed case manager, so they can go in there. So as Jennifer said, if she has somebody, so let's say we have Jennifer's project and she has people that need to be housed, and she's HMIS licensed, so we go ahead and she takes gets PADMISSION license. Now she can go into PADMISSION and see, oh, well, you know, this property over here is a perfect fit. They have all of the right, you know what I mean, and then go from there, and then they can apply and go from there.
Okay. So maybe if you are a transitional housing partner or on this call and have additional questions, if you will submit your question in the chat, or you can email it to Lenarda or Yamali, you'll see her contact information. What we can do is, Jasmine, maybe we can have a follow-up conversation and plan for what the return visit looks like, so that we can be really targeted on answering those questions at both sides. Lenarda, what are you thinking? You're on mute.
I was thinking those questions may want to go to you, Natalie, and Yamali versus me, but I think that's a great idea. I think, yeah, I agree with what you said. I would probably send the questions to you and Yamali.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me
I did
what we
forget
are
to
on
put
time?
Allison.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
I'm
see
sorry.
it.
We've got 4 minutes. Thank you, Natalie. We've got 4 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Jasmine. I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say, I forgot to put Allison's email address, but Allison, can you put it in the chat in case anybody has questions about the by name list process?
Yeah, I can. That's okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Can I ask one question before you go? What are the hours that the Access Hub phone will be answered?
So the Access Hub?
Yeah, is it a 24-hour service if someone is they're homeless at nighttime? What does that look like?
The Access Hub is currently taking live calls Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then outside of those hours, we receive the voicemail messages. We haven't seen like a lot of calls outside of those hours to see the need to increase them right now. And then we respond to those voicemails and emails within 24 business hours.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Carefully, you want to advance us? Oh, I should put my hand down. So recap of our action items, is that Yamali or Diana?
I think it's
That's
me.
Diana.
Okay.
Okay, where are we at? Is that the next step?
It is. It is.
Okay. All right. So it says next steps priority area. In coordination with other housing organizations, agencies that do similar work, develop a list of landlords who accept Section 8 housing voucher sex offenders. So that's basically what we, been talking about, is developing this list. So what did that next step, I guess, continue to expound off where we are? Developing that list. Who takes sex offenders, who don't accept sex offenders? People that have evictions already on their record.
Okay. And so we would then summarize that, or at least Lakeisha's going to work on working with Diana and with Yamali on fine tuning that list, getting all those details in place. We'll come back with a bit of a script and that list at our next meeting. And then if you guys will submit your questions to Yamali or Diana or myself, you've got all three of our contacts on this last slide, then we will pull these questions together and reach out to Jasmine to get her team back on so we can figure out how that plays with our next steps. because I think they've given us a lot to think about and whether or not we want to reinvent the wheel or become a part of this larger wheel that's already in motion to help our clients. So thank you, Diana. And then I think I'm at wrapping up because we're about 5 minutes out. Just a few quick announcements. We have launched a really nice partnership with Wake Tech and NC Works to offer an adult high school diploma program, in-person live classes at Tillery. This is through the Career and College Readiness Program at Wake Tech. They have been lucky enough to get us some laptops that we can use while the students are there on site. They have purchased an app that can be put on the students' iPhones and laptops so that they can continue academic and career advising. That's going to be done remotely, but on site, as well as by mobile app. So this mentoring piece to this adult ed program is really, really what we think takes it to the next level, that they have a mentor that walks with them. So this includes, it's going to start with tape testing to see where people are, create an individualized plan to get them to where they want to be, help them with career exploration, and then mentor them along the process. So if you need information, you've got a number on there, the 715-0111. And I think this has also gone out. Lenarda sent this out to full council. So make sure you look at that. There is a sign up registration cutoff. So please pay attention to that because this is a very valuable resource for our people. We also have our regular, this is a big one. So April is known as Reentry Month, but is nationally being changed to Second Chance Month, for those of you who haven't heard that. But what we decided to do for, in recognition of Reentry Month, is that we're going to have nothing but moments of appreciation, a huge appreciation celebration. We want to celebrate you and all those you know who work in the field of reentry for your tirelessness and your dedication to helping men and women return to our communities successfully. You do not want to miss this session. Be in the room so you have an opportunity to win some of these awesome prizes. But we have guest speakers who are going to play some really fun games and give us strategies to take care of ourselves so that we can be around for the long haul. This can be emotionally and mentally straining work. And she's got some fun things to help get us, let's see, rejuvenized. I'll put it that way. So be in the room on the 22nd. Regular activities are our monthly criminal record expungement seminars from no to yes. April 1st, 11 to 1 in the building. Please follow our links to register and share the information. That regular council meeting on the 22nd is the big thing. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you like the gifts and all of the activities we had at the Christmas celebration, you definitely do not want to miss April 22nd. Be in the house. And then our next housing services meeting is going to be on May 27th. And like Yamali and Diana said, we'll be combining the notes from today. They will be going on our website so you can access them. Please submit your questions so that we can coordinate with Jasmine and her team and be ready to continue moving this work forward.
Natalie also mentioned that our updated our phone list, our phone number.
Absolutely. Do you have the next slide? I think it has it on there. No? Oh, okay.
It's on the agenda.
Okay, so it is on the agenda. Our main office, the board office has relocated. It will be moving as of March. And our permanent office is Tillery anyway. And so that's where you're going to find all of your LRC Capital Area Reentry team right there in Tillery. And so please pay attention to the change of phone number. That is important. We do not have the same phone numbers, guys. I know we're running short on time, so please pay attention to your invitation. That number has been changed on there. Lenarda, if you will unmute yourself and shout that number out, that would be great.
The new number is 919-754-5642. 5326.
And my number is posted on the screen. I will no longer have the 856 number. The only number you'll have for me is the 605-0949. And then you also have Yamali and Diana's contact information included as well. Drop your questions in the chat. Thank you.
Can I add one thing before everyone goes, Natalie?
Sure.
If this is your first time attending today's meeting, it's very important that you put your name and your contact information in the chat box today, because Natalie talked about those gifts, which I can't see myself, but I think you should be able to see behind me, just over my right shoulder. You won't be able to get them or win them if, like she said, you're not there. But if we don't have your information, we have all of our partners in a drum, and we're going to be pulling from that list. So it's important that you share your information. So we want to get you on the agenda, or the attendance list, I'm sorry, as well as include you for our event on the 22nd. That's it.